Hello do-it-yourselfers. Today we are installing new vinyl soffit over some old plywood soffit. We will also be putting some new aluminum fascia over the old wood fascia, giving the trim all the way around the house a big facelift. This project can be done with a small amount of tools that are reasonably cheap. We can make all cuts on vinyl or aluminum soffit or fascia with snips. We will need a tape measure, hammer, pencil, roofing nails, and ladders. I would also recommend a tool pouch and a set of sawhorses. A little demo is required to get started. The gutters are in the way, but generally gutters come down pretty easily. They are typically held in by these long spikes, which theoretically come out easy, or by brackets like this, which you can loosen with a nut driver. Sometimes the spikes are stuck in the old fascia, and if that happens, we can cut them out. A sawzall with a metal blade or a pair of snips will both cut through the standard aluminum gutter just fine. Next thing we need to do is get the J or F channel in place. We are using J channel on this particular project. We are going to measure and install on the outside corners first. We do this so when we are standing outside looking at the outside corners, there are no gaps or spaces. Measure precisely, cut with snips. If you need to notch the nailing flange part of the J channel, it's not a problem because you don't see it anyway once it's installed, but mostly J channel is just measure, cut, and nail in place. Once the outside corner is done, we can simply butt the full length 12-foot piece of J into it and start nailing away. On this particular soffit situation, the rafter tails are 2 foot on center, so all the nailers for the soffit are also 2 foot on center. Nailing into plywood like this can be really springy and a pain in the rear unless nailing where there is support behind the plywood. One nail every 2 feet is not enough in my opinion. I generally like 8 to 12 inches for most anything. So we can fight through the springy plywood for additional fastening power or find some short exterior screws with a decent sized head if it is really being an issue for the places between the nailers. If you want to have some backup screws for situations where a hammer and a nail are giving you problems, just make sure they are exterior grade and have a head roughly similar to a roofing nail. Once J channel is up for a section, we could move on to installing soffit. Soffit generally comes in 12-foot length, so it is nice to have a sawhorse setup with some kind of long work area so it isn't flopping about as you're trying to work with it. We need to measure from the back side of the J channel to the very front edge of the wood fascia. After getting this measurement, subtract a 1/4 inch. Hook the tape measure to the edge of the fascia and mark your measurement. Then we use a square to mark across the piece so we have a line to follow with our snips. Cutting the vinyl soffit with snips is fairly easy, especially over the flat sections, but takes a little more force, especially over the nailing flange. Soffit is designed to be installed lengthwise from wall to fascia. The nailing flange doubles as an anchor point for the next piece of soffit. This overhang is about 2 feet all the way around the house, so I am using one nail near the wall, one by the fascia, and one in the middle. The fascia is offset just a little from the existing plywood soffit. Because of this, we do not want to nail in the nail closest to the fascia all the way, or it will cause the soffit to flex. The end of the soffit needs to rest on the bottom of the wood fascia, so just nail it until the head of the nail is roughly flush with the bottom of the existing fascia. On this project, we are running a 2 solid pieces, then 1 vented piece pattern. Drilling 8 holes with a 1-inch paddle bit through the old plywood is what we decided would be the most efficient. There are still some old vents as well, some of which do line up with the vented soffit we are installing. Some vented soffit on the straight, flat sections of the house are a must. It is okay to use all vented soffit here and all solid soffit on the peaks, or run an alternating pattern like this. For this project, where the peaks are, we will use all solid soffit, and anywhere requiring vents, we will have this pattern. Most of the job is going to be repeating these last few steps over and over until you're around the entire house. Drill holes for vents, measure and cut pieces of soffit, nail soffit in place, repeat and repeat again. This spotlight situation was not figured out ahead of time, so we used a compass and cut a circle in the soffit to go around it for now. This cutout will be covered in the future. Most lights have a large base like this one here that will make the end result look pretty. We may come across some inside or outside corners. All we need for that is to use a speed square to mark a 45 on the J channel that runs diagonal, and then on the soffit that butts into the corner. But the install process is exactly the same. Now we are on to the fascia. A second set of hands is nice for this phase. We are using some white pre-made 6-inch aluminum fascia that is 12 feet long. If aluminum bends at all, it puts a permanent kink in it, so that is to be avoided. If you are installing it by yourself, you have to hold it in the middle and work it out from the center. You slide the fascia up under the drip edge, which is the aluminum piece that sits right under your shingles at the overhang all the way around the house. Also, make sure the lip on the fascia is pretty tight with the underside of your soffit. Overlap the pieces of fascia a few inches, get it snug and in place, and nail it in. Do this all the way around the building, and we are done. Level up your house.